Speaking of the story with the young girl from Ukraine, what's wrong with the blacks?
Uh, I don't know. Do you know the story of Stan Lee in Canada?
Not that I'm aware of right now. What is it?
So there was a man in Canada, this Asian man, who he had a psychotic episode, and he beheaded and cannibalized another person um, in a Greyhound bus. This was, I think, 8 to 10 years ago now. So I don't know if this is racial necessarily, this specific situation. But there is an issue that we have to talk about, which is how we handle like mental health and crime.
But in America, what's wrong with the blacks?
You tell me.
No, you're the expert. I'm asking you.
I've never espoused to be the expert on Black people. It's definitely not my expertise.
Have you noticed? Not all, but most blacks are very angry and violent today.
Uh, I don't know if I've found that they're all angry and violent. I think that there is higher rates of it within that population.
And
But
why is that?
I think it's complicated, right? I think some of it is born in righteous anger, and some of it's been what we talked about, weaponized for unrighteous causes.
As a white lady, do you feel concerned because right now there's a genocide on white people, white women being knocked out, raped, and robbed on the streets, and no one cares about the white people. Does it concern you that there's a genocide on white people today?
I don't know if I would agree with that framing. I've not heard about the genocide on white people, I'm afraid.
You don't know about the knockouts and the killing and the raping of white women and knocking out white men and all that?
No, I haven't.
You're not aware that that's going on?
I don't know if I've heard of it being called a white genocide. I don't know if I have seen any evidence of like specifically white targeting. I think most violence, for example, if you're blaming like black people, I think most violence to black people is also done by black people.
Well, that's happening too, but most violence done by whites, to whites, are done by blacks.
I don't know if that's true, if I'm being honest. I haven't prepped the stats on that, but I'd have to see if that's true.
Do you believe racism exists?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
And what's your proof?
I think, for example, black men tend to go to jail for longer for the same crimes that white men will get reduced sentences for, is a good example.
And why is that?
I would say prejudice. It's very odd to say if you are black. Again, we can hold it if you want stats, since you said you'll grant me stats. When
Yeah.
we look at actually forensic recidivism data, even when you hold, for example, number of priors between white men and black men the same, black men on average still get sentenced to a significantly longer time. In the same way that if you hold the men's statistics consistent with priors to a woman's, even if a woman has 14, you know, reference to the Ukrainian, 14 priors, and the man has 14 priors, she'll get a much lesser sentence typically. I just think that there's prejudice in the way that we stereotype people.
So do you think that if the black man that committed the crime was able pay a lawyer to represent him, maybe he wouldn't go to jail as much as does by getting a free lawyer from the courts? Whereas white men
Possibly.
tend to pay for their lawyers, so they're going to get the best lawyer. When they have to go to court, ask for a free lawyer, that lawyer is, busy with so many cases. He doesn't really have time to be trying to figure it out. If black men were able to pay for their own lawyers in the way that white men are able to do you think it would be even play then?
Um, I suspect no. I'm
Why?
pretty sure that, well, I'm pretty sure the data has already looked into this, that even when you look at economic status, so essentially people's economic access to better lawyers, even then, the black men will get sentenced longer
That's not
specifically. So they
true.
often will get off at about the same rate because they have a similar quality lawyer, but the judge gets to decide the length, right? And oftentimes judges will just opt for longer, more steeper sentences for black men than for white men.
Not true. When black men pay for their own lawyers, that lawyer's on their case in the same way a white man, when he pays for his lawyer, they're going to get the same thing most of the time.
I'm not sure if that's true.
No, it is true.
I don't know if I believe you.
But do you
could just
have
be
any
making that
proof
up.
that racism exists?
I just gave you one. Yeah.
No, that's not proof.
Well, we just talked about how it is, and I'm not granting you making up facts either, right? So we're at an impasse.
Amazing. Do you have any other proof that racism exists?
Yeah, sure. I think an important question to you, for example, why is it the case that black men typically can't afford a more expensive lawyer when a white man can?
Because they believe the lie that they can't make it because they're black. And they think white people are superior to them, so they'll beg and blame it and try to get something free rather than earning their own way.
Do you think that black people just try less hard?
What?
Do you think black people just try less hard than white people to make money?
No, they need to get out and just do it. They don't need to try any harder or less, but just do it.
So black people just don't like go to jobs or like try to make money.
Some do, most don't, because they've heard that they can get it free. All they have to do is cry racism, and they can get it free. Do you love white people?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah. Yes, I like white people.
Do you love white people?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. You are a Christian, right?
Yeah.
God said that our battle is not physical, it's spiritual. That we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spirits and wickedness in high places, evil. Why do you call it racism rather than calling it good or evil? Why do you call it what the world call it rather than calling it what God's called it?
Mostly for specificity. I think if we called just everything that's bad evil and everything that's good good, and those were the only words we had, we'd never know what we're talking about.
Why is that?
So then I just have to be like, well, black people have bad things happen to them. And you'd be like, what kind of bad things? And I'd be like, the baddest of like bad things, right? Just for specificity. I think racism is immoral, obviously, but I call it racism for specificity.
Well, why don't you call it what God called it rather than calling it something else? Are you saying that God didn't know what he was doing when he called it good versus evil?
No, these are not separate things, right? Something can be good and evil and also something else, right?
No.
Murder.
No, it's either good or evil. It's not nothing else.
Do you think murder is good or evil?
You're not answering the question. Why do you call it something other than what God calls it?
I'm answering your question with a question back to kind of elucidate my point. Because I did answer it. I just don't think maybe you're understanding me.
I said that God does not call it racism. He called it good versus evil. And as a daughter of God, why don't you call it what your father called it? Why do you call it what the children of Satan calls it?
For the same reason that I call murder murder instead of just evil, for specificity.
Really?
Yeah. So we know what we're talking about.
So
right?
is murder done due to racism or evil?
Sometimes evil, and then sometimes it's for racism, sometimes it's for greed, and sometimes it's for vengeance. There's all sorts of evils that contribute to murder.
But it's always evil that's influencing it, right?
Sure, yeah, I agree that racism's evil, though. I've already said that.
But how can it be evil when it doesn't exist? It's just a word made up by evil people.
I guess you and I disagree about whether it exists or not. So
But
if
it
you don't
doesn't.
think it exists, then it doesn't matter. And if I think it exists, I would label it evil.
Do you have white privilege?
I'm sure people would say that I do, yeah.
What do you say?
Probably in some areas. There's definitely some things where if I show up next to my husband, my husband's a quarter Nigerian, it smooths
You
things
married to a
out.
black man?
I am, yeah.
You married to, well, no wonder.
That's how you know I'm so cool, right? I can hang.
Well, that
Sorry?
explains it all.
Sorry?
That makes sense now why you think the way you think.
Does it?
Yeah. But
So am I being
listen.
submissive to the wrong type of man? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. I didn't know you were married to a black man, but it makes sense now that you would think that way.
He's conservative,
No, it makes sense that you would think that way.
but he's conservative.
But it makes sense that I'm talking about you. I didn't say him. I don't know anything about him, so I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know him.
But if I'm submissive to my husband and I like take a lot of like leadership and opinion from him and he's conservative, why would it, I guess, what does it mean when you say it makes sense the way I think, right?
Because you married to a black man.
What does that mean?
That's why you think the way you think and you believe racism is and all that mess. But that's fine. I'm
That's probably
okay
not
with
why,
it.
to be
But
fair.
it makes sense
He probably
now.
disagrees on the extent to which I would say it exists, right?
Oh,
He's
okay.
conservative.